addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
But my beats, they are hard.
Welcome to another edition of the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford here, and joining me on this edition, my man Jamie Walker. Jamie, how you doing, my man?
I am good, B. I'm good. How are you?
Oh man, I am. Allergy season down here in Florida is beating me up, man. I am leaking. I'm leaking like a faucet every 5 seconds. So I will apologize early. Because last thing I want to do is leak out on the video. So if you see me, doing this, that's because it's about to flood. So
man, you do what you gotta do.
I know that's the one thing you can't hide when you do video. It's like if we were just doing audio, it'd be what it's gonna be. It's like who would care? But with this video thing, it's kind of like okay, we got to put up a good showing. So. Week number 4 finished up, and we're heading into week 5 upcoming as we record this. So we got a lot to talk about. We haven't had a chance to really rap about week 4. And I know this because you're out there broadcasting games. As a matter of fact, shout out to where were you this past weekend?
Well, I was at Albany State as they hosted Clark Atlanta. I was doing the color commentary on ESPN Plus, so that was a treat. That was cool. The game wasn't very good, but I mean, finding stuff to talk about in the 49-point blowout is different, but wonderful experience.
Yeah, well, hey, congratulations, man! You made it to the. You made it to the 4-letter network. You made it to the big.
I guess that's what you call it.
The other 4-letter network, right?
That's right.
The other 4-letter network. Yeah. So you were doing the Albany State Clark game, and I was in Mobile at the Gulf Coast Challenge between Alabama A&M and Tuskegee, and I'm always reminded about the differences in cultures and just crossing 1 or 2 states, man. It can be a completely different world almost sometimes, and that's the beautiful thing about the South, man. Florida is not like Georgia, and Georgia is not like Alabama, and Alabama ain't like Florida. It's just all different, man.
For sure.
Yeah. So good. I probably had twice as many points in my game than you did. So let's kind of talk about those 2 teams, because it's funny. We're both covering probably 2 of the right now at this point in the season, 2 of the top tier teams in what we like to call the Division I level and then the under D1 level. So let's start with kind of Albany State, who I thought, coming into that game, I believe they're 2-1. Just finished up probably the most competitive game that Valdosta State had played all season. And then they kind of, put it on Clark, Albany State appears to be back after a 2019 where they kind of took a backseat to Savannah State. What's your evaluation of Albany State from what you saw?
Well, a very balanced team. And what I do gather from them is it starts with the quarterback, starts with that running game. Deontay Banu, who's the quarterback of Albany State, redshirt sophomore, really the field general for them. It's a balanced team that is able to run the football effectively with 3 or 4 running backs, Marquise Fultz being one of them. They run the ball downhill. They run the ball with the option. Banu will run the ball, but, Coach Gabe Gardenia wants to run the football, and they will at will. And so that is how they kind of set up their offense to go with their play action game. And as long as that running game is cooking, they really, make it difficult for any team to kind of come back on them in relation to shortening the game, running the clock, but they'll also throw it over the top too. I think over years, they always had the reputation of just running the football well with Banu and those receivers, and they have a lot of them. They also will throw the ball over the top after, just pounding the football the entire night or for a little while. They'll, throw it over the top too. So on defense, they get after the quarterback. They have a really good linebacking core who, their front four keeps, offensive linemen off their linebackers. Their linebackers flow well and they cover well. So I think, when you're looking at this team, it's not sexy as you would, have with other dynamic offenses. But what they do it well. And they are, at the class of that SIAC East.
Yeah, I'm real interested to see where those contests, and I know Albany State's got some good matchups upcoming, starting with this weekend, and then when it comes time to have to do battle with Savannah State and Benedict, who I think is much improved. I'm waiting to see, and Fort Valley. I mean, to be honest, those are all 3 tough contests that they will be in front of Albany State. So it'll be interesting to see if Albany State is that kind of, if they are the playoff caliber team that we knew them to be. And Gabe, Coach Gabe Giardina, he's a hell of a coach, and it's funny watching a team like your game was a running themed game. Mine was a passing game, and it's so funny that running the ball seems to be this what's the word? It's almost become a novelty now. Teams who run the ball like that have really become a novelty because so many other teams are just spreading out and throwing it all over the field. But at the end of the day, what seems to be working most is when you can run the ball well, control the line of scrimmage. Rarely do you find those teams taking L's. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever you can, do those kinds of things, what you're saying is exactly right. It's a rarity that you have a team that just wants to run the football. I love it. I absolutely love it because you impose your will on another squad. If you can't stop them from running the football, there's nothing you can do with them primarily, because it does everything else for the team. It gives an opportunity for that team's defense to rest and be able to be their all against your offense.
The Albany Alabama A&M game, as I think back to that game, I continue to impress upon people. The first half is right now where Alabama A&M is showing their dominance. And I even I would say you start looking ahead this upcoming weekend, and I think they have, is it Grambling this week?
Yeah.
Look at whatever the first half line is, get those points away because Alabama A&M puts up points. The second half is where they have troubles, but that was a game where it's funny, Jamie. We did this thing where we do this offensive and defensive player of the week. And I mean, now here's a game where 80 points were put up on the board, both the nearly 1,000. I'm probably right at about 1,000 yards of total offense from both teams. You know, and you're like, who am I going to give a defensive player of award of the game to in a game where one team scored 45, the other scored 35. Nobody really had a defensive touchdown, no special teams touchdowns. It's like, you know, Tuskegee had a couple guys with 11 tackles, but yeah, you should have 11 tackles when you're chasing around those wide receivers that A&M's throwing out around all day. So yeah, there should be guys like that, but I don't think that qualifies anybody for a player of the week. So, you know, I know we didn't have one. We ended up going with 2 offensive players, but I felt kind of bad. You see comments, and I don't know if you read comments and things like that afterwards, but I happened to read a comment and somebody was upset about the fact that we didn't name a defensive player of the week. And I'm like, what game did you watch where you thought there should have been a defensive player of the week? I mean, you know,
there's nothing you can do about that. I totally understand where y'all came from with that, because that was interesting. I kind of peeped over at the score and I'm like, okay, all right, what's going on? Okay. And I think going into it, everyone fully expected, you know, A&M to blow out Tuskegee, just judging by a few games that you saw. But give credit to them, man. Tuskegee fought back and made it a game. You know, when you have those kind of in-state rivalries, and again, you know, kind of going back to the SIAC media days, you know, I know we keep talking about, you know, AD Willie Slater against football coach Willie Slater against, you know, he said we were going to be playing these, you know, money games this year. And, you know, it hadn't, you know, come up roses so far with those. But I tell you what, give credit to his team. It looks like they're improving, along with, you know, going into this and getting this kind of experience against, you know, D1 squads. You know, hey, right now his team is fighting.
Well, they've got 2 quarterbacks that they're sophomores, and the one quarterback, and they're both named Williams. So go get that. You know, you got 2 quarterbacks that are sophomores and they're named Williams, no relation. And so the second Williams, who was the backup, was the one who was a more productive quarterback. And so, I think Tuskegee is getting right. They've got a running back now that think they can lean on. The passing game looked pretty sharp. They just fell behind, and then they had a couple of bad fumbles and turnovers at the worst time. And so, you know, when you have that happen to you, you know, bad things happen. Let's go back for a second as we're starting recapping from week 4. You know, obviously we're recording this on Thursday night. You know, it just saw, you know, obviously we got a live game going on, Prairie View and UAPB, and we just saw UAPB score a touchdown.
I did.
After being down 14-3. And looking back at that game, what surprised you? I'll tell you what surprised me about last week's game, Alcorn UAPB. What surprised you about that game? Outcome or just the game itself throughout?
The outcome, because UAPB dominated through 3.5 quarters. And well, through 2.5 quarters, because, you know, for everything that Fred McNair has gone through with this squad and just this program in general and just the athletic program, I think that it says a lot that his football team, after really getting drugged, you know, for the first, second, and like I said, 2.5 quarters, for them to come out and right the ship. And if you looked at that game, they never worried. It was never a panicky type of situation where they said, I'm going to do this. They just kept doing what they do behind Felix Harper and the rest of that squad. They couldn't run the ball effectively early. And it's just how the outcome, you know, was. I think they came and took it away from UAPB versus it being given away or whatever. I think the Braves showed their resolve and said, you know what? We're still the champs until someone takes it away from us. And in some people's opinions, They don't give much credence to the spring. We've been in those circles where people really have that attitude. And so, they consider themselves the champs until somebody takes it away from them. And they played like that.
You know what's funny? I'm going to push back a little bit on. I was of that same thought like you, like UAPB controlled that game for 2.5 quarters, or maybe I would even go back. I would even drop it a little bit less and say 1.25, because there was two major stats that stood out to me. One, all of the scoring by UAPB came in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And that came from 2 touchdowns, a field goal, and a pick six, right? So that's four scores, and probably when you look at a field goal, if they would have scored a touchdown, we may be talking different. But outside of that, what made that second quarter look so bad for UAPB or for Alcorn is 5 sacks. Harper got sacked 5 times in the second quarter alone. And so that when you go and look at that, you're like, wow, you guys didn't do much. But on the flip side, it's the Alcorn defense that really only gave up 9 points after the first quarter. They gave up a field goal in the second. I'm not going to put the block punt on them in the third quarter. And they gave up a touchdown in the fourth quarter. And they held on a 4th and goal in that fourth quarter as well.
Yes.
So that team, in 3 quarters, that defense forced some mistakes, and they held them to 9 points. And so it's like if special teams done boo-boo on themselves, the offensive line, once they figured themselves out and Harper actually kind of got going, that second half was a blowout. And then the narrative kind of comes out in the coaches' press conference that UAPB had kicking troubles, which we all as journalists failed all across the board by not uncovering that story earlier, right? Don't you feel that way? It's like that, because we all talked about it, Jamie. Everybody was like, well, if you would have just kicked one more field goal, or if you missed extra points on field goals, right? But you were going for 2. When you lose by 1, you start adding up the points you left on the field. And I don't know whether anybody asked or nobody uncovered it, but for the coach to be the one to come out on a Monday, 4 days later, and say, yeah, our kicker was hurt. That was the reason why I went for it on 4th down and we had troubles. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what happened. I'm like, man, we all failed. I mean, journalism failed that night, right? That 24 hours after the game, journalism failed.
This is true. I mean, but it was said during the broadcast, I was wondering why they didn't kick it at the time. So I guess coming out later and I guess, having that explanation was helpful in that way, I guess, for us to understand it. But, it is what it is at this point. But I still, that three points, and you could have added those points to it, and maybe that would have, created a different outcome. But there are a lot of opportunities to make stops in that second half for their defense that didn't happen as well.
Yeah, so it'll be, what's the old saying? One play, one person doesn't make or break or define a game. But I don't
know about this.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It can kind of look that way if you really look at it. So, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this game tonight is, because Prairie View coming off the big win against Grambling. Let's kind of transition over to that for a second, because Grambling now has only scored, they scored 16 points week 1. They went 2 weeks, almost 9 quarters without scoring, only scored 10 points against Prairie View. And so now, the rumors start floating around about the hot seat for Coach Fobbs. What's your take on Grambling after that disappointment? I thought this was going to be the year where Grambling and Coach Fobbs get it right, but I may be wrong about that.
Well, I mean, I tell you what, you were the only one of the only ones that picked. I mean, you know what? I'm not gonna say you were the only one. It was surprising that a few people picked Grambling really after the tumultuous spring they had to be up there and kind of right the ship and be back in contention. But I think when you make a bunch of wholesale changes along with not having or not being sure who your signal caller is going to be, it's really hard to say you're going to compete in that SWAC West, who's very competitive now. You're looking at some teams that are, Prairie View being one of them. You're looking at Alcorn being over there now. You're looking at, a bunch of different teams who are competitive. And right now, you don't have this. I think you just look at stability when it comes to Grambling not being there enough for them to be regarded as one of the competitors in the West. I think when you look at the way that, again, Jeremy Higbottom, who was there, up until the spring, now at Tennessee State, bringing in a new quarterback, bringing in a new offensive staff. When you're making those wholesale changes, and it only went from the spring until, now, they haven't had enough time to develop. They still get after it on defense. And I think that's a staple of where their program's always been. But I think when you look at the way that they've had those kind of changes, I just don't think they've had enough time to gel. And so to say they were going to be competitive this early on, I think may have been premature just based on who they have. But I think they just have not had enough time to get themselves together. And it's unfortunate because, we've been told by some people that the fan base is restless. And so when you have that going on and you just you're going to run out of time versus having the time you need for all parts to gel.
Yeah, nobody. And so my thought there when we talk about, the fan base is restless, I'm like, here's Fobbs who makes 300-something thousand, I think, and your school's coming out of a pandemic. I don't know if you can financially afford to let him go and just be sitting on. I don't know what the whole contract situation is. So I don't know if you can afford to just sit out there. Now, obviously money talks. So, let there be a booster or something out there who's willing to pay it, because that's usually how it gets done at other schools. But if a booster wants it bad enough, well, he can shell out the money to cover the base of that contract. And then guess what? They can send him on his way. But, that's a lot of money to sit on. So, it depends on how much is left on the Fobbs contract before they make any kind of move. Flip it on the other side, though. Prairie View A&M playing right now, looking good. Coming into tonight's game with a 3-1 record. Really surprised at what I'm seeing from Prairie View. And this could be the kind of game, like if they close this game out against UAPB, they're sitting in a great spot going into the rest of the year, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I think, you're looking at this team, even, as we speak, being able to do some things, getting a quarterback, the Juwan Pass from Louisville, transfer from Louisville, who's come in there and really has given them a breath of fresh air as far as what they're able to do and shaking up their offense and making it dynamic. But I think they've always had really good coaching. I think they've, in the past few years since Eric Dooley has come in, has had really good coaching. It's just a matter of personnel groupings and just having the right folks at the right time to be able to come in and just build this thing right. And, when you're in the same division as Grambling, Southern, and others who've been dominant, along with some others that have come in now, you kind of get lost in the shuffle. But I'll tell you what, right now they're making a whole lot of people, as they scored again, as we are looking at it.
Pass another run by Pass. That's now.
Oh yeah.
I think that's 2 rushing touchdowns for Pass.
Yes. So looking at them,
Is it a pass? Oh no, it's a throw. It's a toss, touchdown throw.
But UAPB has succumbed, and this game is not over by any stretch of the imagination.
No. Hope you took the over. It's already got 29, 30 points in like 2.5 quarters and 1.5 quarters. Yeah.
But yeah, they can take that place that UAPB was in for a year or two, as being that next team. And I tell you what, they can score with anybody. So as long as you can score with anyone, you have a chance. And with Grambling not really performing and being up to snuff, they can take that next spot. Now I don't know what a game looks like with Alcorn right now. I'm trying to imagine what that looks like, and we'll see what happens going forward. With this game and others, but they're well within range in the SWAC West.
Coach Dooley, in those first couple years when he took over, he had Jawan Tucker and Dewanya Tucker,
yeah,
and Jalen Morton. Mm-hmm. As many people was focused on Dewanya Tucker, Jalen Morton reminds me. Well, I should say Jawan Pass reminds me of the Jalen Morton type of quarterback he had. And so while the offense was clicking, the defense wasn't quite there. Then when those two graduated, all of a sudden he comes in, the defense is looking pretty good, but the offense is not there. This might be the year where even with a couple of guys who left on defense, just imagine if those guys, I think there was two of them, Story Jackson and another kid from Prairie View who left. But just think if those guys don't leave, how bad we're talking, already Prairie View is up there in the top 3 in a lot of people's polls and rankings. This might be, look, I don't know the schedule offhand, and I don't know if they got Alabama A&M on their schedule, but I'm already looking forward to seeing how far Prairie View goes, because this might be Dooley's best team since he's taken over for Willie Simmons. This might be his best team. Real quick, Jackson State went down to against a Division II team, Delta State. It went all the way down to a fourth quarter defensive stop from the 7-yard line. Much to do about nothing, or what concerns you about Jackson State, Jamie, from what we've seen thus far?
Nothing really concerns me. I think that defense is as good as anyone in FCS. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I think you as a football team run into those types of situations because they were up early. They held Delta State, out of the end zone for a long time. And I think that, they've always played competitive. It wasn't going to be a blowout per se, although it was trending that way early on. But I think that it's a good wake-up call for them to come back in conference. So I don't think it's much to do about anything. I think Jackson State is just, people getting some film on them, people, seeing what they do. And so they're going to have some tough stretches. But I think with that's a veteran coaching staff. And what I mean, not necessarily veteran with Jackson State, but they have some really good coaches all the way around. So I think when you're talking about that defense, they'll keep them in a lot of games when the offense kind of is lackluster or people have figured them out.
Two things that worry me about Jackson State. One, I should say one thing worries me about Jackson State. It's their running game. Their running game is just, I don't even know if it's an appetizer. It's more like a side dish for that offense. And I think that who knows if that will come back to hurt them, because the reason why it might not, you got a guy in Shedeur Sanders, a freshman. You saw what his completion percentage is?
71%. Yes.
Holy cow. I saw that number and I was like, what? Really? Mm-hmm. That is ridiculous, Jamie. It's number 4 in FCS, but for a freshman But then again, it's an offense he knows. He's been running it for the last 3-4 years, so there's comfortability. And turnovers don't really affect you. Sacks don't affect you. I mean, I know he had 4 sacks against Delta State. He had a couple turnovers against in the FAMU game. He had a couple turnovers, but they won that and overcame them. He had a turnover or 2 against Louisiana Monroe. But still, I mean, 71% is like, whoa. And that's impressive as hell. So the running game and limiting turnovers from the quarterback position might be the 2 things that worry me about Jackson State, but I don't know how many teams have the guys that can deal, and so I know they got some contests coming up against Southern and Alcorn and UAPB, and I think that's their 3 West teams that they play. So those will be real interesting. They probably got the 3 best teams from the West. So if anybody's going to trip up Jackson State, it's probably going to be one of those 3 teams. I don't know what the Alabama A&M game has in store for them, but that'll be interesting to see. Let's take a break. When we come back from the break, we're going to get into talking. We're going to maybe just put a bow on week 4, go through the BCSN Players of the Week from week 4, talk a little bit about the polls that are out there, especially the HBCU Pro Sports Media poll, their top 10. Get into a little bit later the debut of the BCSN top 5. A lot of people, it's the official debut of the top 5. We don't do top 10s. We don't do preseason. We kind of wait for the season to play out, crunch the numbers, see who looks like what, and then we put it out there. So it might be a little controversial. Our poll has been known to do that. So we'll see what it has in store coming up out of the break. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back right after these words.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more. But it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Oh, that spin class was brutal.
Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable. That's a really tight spot. Don't worry. I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too. Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford, joined by Jamie Walker here, as we kind of put a bow on our observations from week 4 and get ready to roll into week number 5 coming up this weekend. Two things I want to make note of, Jamie. Did you see the numbers put up by 2 quarterbacks on the under D1 level, one at Langston and the other at Lincoln, Missouri? At Langston, Raquan Washington put up 8 touchdowns, or accounted for 8 touchdowns, 4 passing, 4 rushing. I see you shaking your head, in an 85-6 win. Holy cow, Jamie. When's the last time? I think there may have been one other guy who got, let me see, Bryce Witt over at Shawan got 7, but I think 8 is the season high.
That's crazy.
Ridiculous numbers.
The only time I've ever remember somebody throwing for those. Well, you know what? It was a guy earlier this year. I forgot what school it was, Presbyterian or somewhere.
Yes.
Threw 10 touchdown passes this year.
Yes.
But it just reminds me of like Andre Ware and David Klingler when Houston used to score all those points in the Southwest Conference back in the day. So yeah, but that's crazy. Like, what defense? I mean, it's well 7-on-7.
Well, you know what's a funny thing, when I went and looked at the scores here, Langston, who's now 4-0 in the NAIA Sooner Athletic Conference, they scored 3 touchdowns in every quarter in that contest. So by my count, I counted 9 scores. So somewhere, I don't know, 3, 6, 9, 12. You do the math. Somewhere my math isn't right. But anyway, they scored 21, 20. They scored 22, 21, 21, and 21 in every quarter, right? That's how the 4 quarters broke down. They had 3 fumbles they lost. So I was trying to do the math and say, okay, how many drives? So, I mean, what is that? That's 12 drives out of 15. There were no punts. So it was like you had 15 drives in a ball game. You scored 12 touchdowns and you fumbled 3 times. That's how efficient that offense. And they played somebody called Arkansas Baptist, which that might have been playing. They might be worse than Sisters of the Poor and that school. That school from up in Atlanta. That school from Atlanta that snuck their way on ESPN.
No, that wasn't from Atlanta. You talking about Bishop Sycamore?
Oh, that wasn't Atlanta. You were like, no, don't put that on.
Don't put that on. Listen, there are some schools.
Right. They might be worse than Bishop Sycamore.
I want to talk about that one day because, first of all, Bishop Sycamore is not an isolated incident. Please understand.
Really? Okay. We have
those prep schools. Yes, there are plenty of them. But yeah, it may have been worse.
Where are you with Langston? Now, Langston is drawing a lot of buzz. They moved into the number 1 spot in a lot of polls and a lot of under D1 polls, Division II, NAIA, or however mid-major, however people are categorizing it. Where are you with Langston? I know you're a voter in the HBCU Pro Sports Media poll. Where is Langston in your view at this point in the season?
They're still quite up there for me. Because you can't ignore what they're doing as far as beating people. You can't help who you play per se. Who the opponents they faced, they've beaten soundly, and so I think they deserve a look and deserve the accolades that they're getting. But I also think for me, I think it's still a wait and see as well because of the level of competition that they're going against. I think as that increases, I think, you know, we can make a better judgment. But I think, you know, I think I'm neutral when it comes to what they're doing right now because I think you know, they're playing phenomenal football. Don't get me wrong, and they're beating who's coming against them. But I think that I need to see a little more because again, that last game when you're putting up those kind of points, you know, you're not getting much pushback at all.
Are you buying? It sounds like you're not necessarily buying that the NAIA is comparable or competitive with Division II, or are you just saying, or are you thinking about just in terms of who they played this year?
Just in terms of who they played, I think there are some NAIA squads that can definitely compete with some Division IIs. Yeah, I'll never go that far because I think when you know, it's so many factors that go into coaching, obtaining talent, what you do with that talent, you know, are those factors. But yeah, just in the terms of who they played is where I kind of judge where they are.
The other, we'll come back to Langston in a few. The other big performance amongst all, I mean, my God, the number of big performances this past weekend was ridiculous. The Lincoln, Missouri, the quarterback Zamar Brake, who's a 6'4", 225 freshman from Easton, Pennsylvania. He transferred from St. Francis University, so he's like a redshirt freshman. And he set a single game record with 445 passing yards, tied a single game record with 4 touchdown passes. Lincoln lost in overtime, but there was a quarter, the third quarter, Jamie, 50 points were put up in the third quarter, 50. And five of those 7 touchdowns that came in that quarter came from the 5-minute mark under. So it's like the last 5 minutes was a blur of long kickoff returns, an onside kick, long plays. I'm talking 67-yard touchdown passes, an 84-yard touchdown pass, 38-yard touchdown run. I'm talking like you score, boom, onside kick, okay, next play, boom. It was like you'd have to run that little reel. You know how you run the reel real fast in the third quarter? That's what you want to see. 5 of the 7 touchdowns scored in the third quarter were at the 5-minute mark or less, under 5 minutes.
As much as I love offense, I want to see at least a touch of defense or attempts at stopping somebody. That's ridiculous. 50 points in a quarter. Like it really does remind me of when you're speeding up the tape just to get through it. That's what that sounds like.
Yeah. What's your take on when you look at the offensive production from the weekend? We had just to summarize here, you had 2 quarterbacks that threw 5 touchdowns or more. You had 5 quarterbacks that threw 4 touchdowns. You had 4 quarterbacks that threw 3 touchdowns. And then you had 8 quarterbacks that passed for over 300 yards, with 2 of them passing over 400.
You're looking at the factor of 7-on-7 type of football now. I think as you are seeing the development of the middle, high school, and early collegiate athlete being focused on the pass, you're seeing intricate passing games early and often. And as we talked about early on with Albany State, you know, being a throwback to yesteryear running the football, you're looking at these quarterbacks now and these offenses really being creative in their passing game. And not even necessarily they're going down the field. They're using the pass to substitute for the run, throwing the short passing game and having these athletes on the perimeter be able to run. And it's not even that you're getting 6'2" and 6'3" receivers going out there and just boxing DBs out. No, they're throwing to 5'6" and 5'7", you know, scat backs just being able to take it to the house. So I think you're seeing the value of coaching of offensive coaching and really rules and defensive rules being in place where it's protecting the athlete, but it's also adding to offense and what you can do and what you can't do defensively. So I think there's so many things included in this offensive surge. But again, going back to really good quarterback play in the passing game, I think you're seeing some of that on all levels of football.
Who was your best showing from the week? Who would you give your award for the best showing from week number 4?
Wow, you're on the spot. I would say in so many of these showings, I would give it to the game I called, Deontay Bonu. And what I mean by that was just his ability to be able to run, to lead the offense for Albany State, running the option. He ran the football effectively. But along with that, the play action pass that was predicated on them being able to run and him being able to run the option, he ran it to perfection. It kind of went with what I just stated. He was able to go back door and throw the short passing game, but also Albany State showed the ability to go over the top with their receivers as well. So I think I would give him props on really an incredible display of balance. But along with that, just him being a field general overall. So that's what I would give him to. That would be one.
Anybody from a team perspective? I looked at it from the team perspective, and I went with Langston as my best showing from the week. The production that I just talked about was ridiculous. Another guy that individually kind of caught my attention was Anthony Lane and I had it where's Lane from? Anthony's from is he from Lane?
From Lane? Mm-hmm.
He's from Lane. I know
he is from Lane.
I had this written down, so I feel kind of like why did I know this? Yeah, he accounted for almost 290 all-purpose yards, 6 catches for 115 yards receiving with 2 scores. He returned a kickoff 91 yards right after Edward Waters had kind of cut it to 3 in the 4th quarter. So he had 144 kickoff return yards. In all, I think he caught a couple of passes, had a rush. So it was like the guy was just everywhere for Lane. And look, I know, the quarterback for Lane got like Offensive Player of the Week awards, but I wanted to shout out Anthony Evelyn. Excuse me. I know what it was. Anthony Evelyn. I want to make sure he's from Lane. So it's not Anthony Lane. It's Anthony Evelyn from Lane who put up that performance. How about worst showing from the weekend? Who would you say was who showed, team or I don't know if we want to give players out, but maybe from a team perspective, who had the worst showing?
I'm gonna go UAPB. Because I think, and the only reason I say that is because they had a golden opportunity. They've been playing the respect card from the spring all the way up until now.
From media day,
everyone's forgetting about us. No one giving us our respect. They were going to take their respect and had the golden opportunity to knock the champs, quote unquote, off their perch and gave up the game. And not to say that they didn't perform well. It was just a matter of, okay, hey, who was it? Ric Flair or whoever said, hey, to beat a man, you got to beat the man. Well, they had the opportunity to beat the man and it didn't happen. So I think, at the end of the day, you have to, if you're a champ, you have to take that next step into solidifying that position. And I think, for me, they were one of my picks as far as, okay, they're going to prove something to the rest of the SWAC, that this was no fluke, and go ahead and take that position, to being one of those in the upper echelon. And right now, looking at a game and a half of work right now in that respect realm, they're still kind of in the same position. So that would be my, not buster, but I guess that would be one of those teams that kind of didn't do it for me, last week.
I'm gonna go with Central State. Central State with the, they have this thing in the NFL called become real popular called scoregami, where it's like these strange scoring combinations, and so when you go and see that Miles beat Central State 55-4, and you're saying, wait, 4? There's only a couple of ways in which you can give up 4 points, right? That's like 2 safeties or 2 blocked kick. Wait a minute. Is it 2 block punt returns? No. 2 block extra points.
Mm-hmm.
A block extra point. So the rare block extra point can result in 2 points. Or you can do what Central State did, is you can do 1 of each. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, well, we'll do the double combo of a safety and a block extra point, and that's how so you gave up you get a safety. I mean, the oddest combination, but then you get rolled 55-4.
Well, I guess it did give Coach Ruffin something to blast the team about later on. So I guess it was a good thing in relation to Miles. But yeah, how do you do that?
Yeah. Let's take a second and let me mention the BCSN HBCU football players of the week for week number 4. These were games that were played the 23rd through the 26th. On the 2 levels, in the D1 level, the offensive player of the week was Felix Harper. Harper, of course, with 16-32 for 368, 3 touchdowns, helping rally Alcorn State from a 19-point second half deficit to get a win. And then how about his teammate on the other side getting the defensive player of the week, Kieran Kinsler Jr., who had a game-high 12 tackles, 8 solo, 2.5 tackles for loss. He also forced a fumble and had a fumble recovery. So we're talking about those UAPB mistakes coming at the hands of Kinsler and that defense. And then our special teams player of the week was Christopher Andrew Brown of North Carolina A&T State. And Brown had a perfect day kicking. And this is very rare because not too many guys are having perfect days kicking the ball. He was 3 for 3 from 39, 25, and 45. And then, Jamie, he was 4 of 4 on the PATs. So it's like guys just, I was going through. Guys are, it's very rare. Get 4 chances and make 4. It used to be automatic. Not anymore. So shout out to those guys. And then the under D1 players of the week, quarterback Raquan Washington of Langston. We just mentioned some of his numbers a little bit earlier. Tyrone Fisher, linebacker from Virginia State, was the defensive player of the week. Had 11 tackles, 2 solo, recovered a fumble, which he returned for 77 yards in Virginia State's win. I think Virginia State won that game, if I'm not mistaken. Doing a quick little scan here. Yeah, they did. Virginia State did win last week, didn't they, Jamie? Oh, no, check that. They lost to Fayetteville State, 28-14.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was Tyler Moore of Fort Valley State, defensive back, who blocked a field goal, which resulted in a touchdown that put Fort Valley up 2 scores in the fourth quarter, or mid-third quarter, rather. He also had 11 tackles and 2 pass breakups. So kind of a combo defensive special teams. Although my own personal vote, I would have given it to Anthony Evelyn, just my own personal vote. But all guys are deserving, definitely.
For sure. For sure.
All right.
Speak that Lane program, man. You're talking about under the radar, but really playing some good ball. Lane is coming out of nowhere.
Well, let's kind of transition as you mentioned that. Let's mention and bring up some of the polls. Let's start with the HBCU Pro Sports media poll for week number 4, and we'll start in the mid-major rankings. Starting down at number 10, you got Fort Valley State at 2-2. Bluefield State is number 9. Kentucky State is number 8. Their record of 2-2. They beat Benedict in the Circle City Classic over the past week. Fayetteville State is number 7. They moved up a spot with their win over Virginia State. Miles College is 6. Moved up a spot. They're 2-2. And then you mentioned Lane. Lane College 3-1. They are number 5. They got a win over Edward Waters University. Number 4 is Savannah State. Got a win over Morehouse this past weekend. I think it was 29-10. Number 3 is Albany State. Albany State, who dropped actually from 2 to 3 according to the voters. Not really sure how that worked out, but it is what it is. Albany State does have 2 first-place votes. And then Bowie State moved from 3 to 2. So a little flip of the voting there. I guess Bowie State with what they beat Livingstone. I think it was 50-0, 49-0, something like that. So they moved to number 2, and then number 1, Langston University, the NAIA out of the Sooner Athletic Conference, got 8 first-place votes. Of course, beat Arkansas Baptist 85-6. They get Lyon College on the road this upcoming Saturday. Any thoughts or takeaways on the mid-major rankings?
It is interesting that Albany State dropped. Just, the caliber of opponents they played, and just, that game against Valdosta, if you go back and kind of analyze it, I think they went into the break down 7-3. Rainy night in Valdosta. You talking about a bunch of turnovers, but they gave Valdosta all they could handle. So I think, I don't know, if you can say good loss, but I think it does give you an idea of what that team is. So I think they probably shouldn't have dropped. But hey, people have the right to their vote, and I get it. I also think that it's interesting just the way everything will shake out in the SIAC in general, because you're talking about a few schools that in that SIAC West that, Miles, I think you're talking about Lane, you're talking about, a couple other squads. I think, Central State is falling back to the pack, after early on. Kentucky State still being able to compete. So I think this poll will do a bunch of changing before the year is out, just based on who's still left to play.
Yeah. Over in the SIC in the West, Miles, Lane, and Kentucky State all with 1 win in conference, no losses. In the East, Savannah State has 2 wins. Albany State with just 1. And then Fort Valley has yet to have a conference game credited to them yet. So, yeah, that's how it's looking over in the SIC. Definitely more competitive in the West than I thought it would be, to be honest. I think, I thought Kentucky State would challenge, but I definitely didn't forecast Lane coming and doing what they're doing. So,
and I tell you what, Savannah State is an interesting team. Both me and you have called one of their, their games. And you can see the potential they have, but you can also see that team making a lot of mistakes. So they won't sneak up on anyone, but they're an interesting team to me. They'll either be, for me first or towards the bottom, just based on, what's going on with them. But they're just an interesting squad that I can't really get a beat on just to say they are this or they are that. They won't sneak up on anybody like they did when they first got back into the conference. But they have the talent, to be able to win that division. But they're mistake prone as well.
Well, I think with Savannah State, D'Angelo Durham hasn't broken out yet. He's sort of been the focus for a lot of people. He really hasn't had that big game, that big super game yet, or that string of games yet. But I think it's coming, though. I think it's coming. And it just seems like Savannah State is able to pass the ball a lot better than they did a year ago. And that, too, that's a little bit of the growth of Devon Gibbons, who looks a lot better. And they're running a 2-quarterback system. So I forgot the other quarterback's name at the moment, but both quarterbacks seem to be passing the ball a lot better this season than in the past. All right, let's go to the major division rankings from the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. Number 10, Alabama State enters in 2-1. They weren't ranked last week. Florida A&M on a bye week, they dropped a week. They dropped from 8 to 9. Norfolk State moves in to number 8. They weren't ranked, but they moved in now at 2-2 after a win against St. Francis, PA. They've got a big game upcoming this week. That'll be interesting. Southern dropped from number 9 to number 7, even though they won. They won against Mississippi Valley State, but they dropped from 9 to 7. Hampton stayed put at 6. They had a bye week, so they didn't lose any ground at 6. Alcorn State jumped from 7 to 5. Of course, after the win against UAPB. The biggest move occurred from North Carolina A&T. Go figure this, Jamie. Your beloved Aggies jumped from 10 to 4 with a 1-2 record. Jamie, you're going to help me break that down for me in a moment. Prairie View moved from 4 to 3. Jackson State stayed put at 2. Alabama A&M stayed put at 1. All right, Jamie, here's a chance for you to poke out your chest and with that big dog over your shoulder, talk about the Aggies. What are people, the Aggies, how did they jump from 10 to 4 with 1 win over North Carolina Central? Did people value North Carolina Central that highly?
I'm going to surprise you. I don't think the body of work merits the big jump, only because they didn't have a win yet. But I think people put this win amongst who the teams in the poll. And they gave that win a lot of value. And so I think they should be in the top 10. I understand that. Now, up that high, maybe not, only because of the amount of wins, just the sheer amount of wins. And really, that team is developing as well. I think you have a lot of key pieces, but I don't think necessarily that that they've proven that they pieced enough of that team to say I'm in competition or that I deserve to be ranked amongst those squads. If you look at Alcorn State, for example, getting beat by Central, but A&T thoroughly beating Central, I think that could be a point to make and a point of emphasis for teams. But you have a lot of squads just within really the same range of play. When you're talking about Southern right now, and that was actually my dark horse pick to win the West, to be honest with you, because I think of the ways that they were able to run the football effectively, and even within their multi-quarterback system, that they would be able to kind of flourish, and along with, that man, Mr. Lewis, coming off the edge, being able to compete with everyone. But they've been shaky as well. So I think you got a lot of teams within the same, same area as far as their question marks. So I don't think necessarily that A&T deserve to jump that high, but I do believe they should be in the top 10. I think they are amongst top 10 in those Division I areas.
Yeah, and I voted them top 10. I didn't vote them as high as 4, but I voted them into the top 10. All right, let's take a break. We come back. We're going to wrap up the show as we head into week number 5 and kind of look at some teams that we're bullish and bearish about, as well as tell you our top 3 games for the upcoming weekend, maybe give you an idea of who we think might be on upset alert or who just might pull out the big upset, and look out for some blowouts. Might be a few blowouts or two coming up. So you're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after these words.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the Quicker Picker-Upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the Quicker Picker-Upper.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry. Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more. But it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat.
Ooh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on? Sure. It's wireless. Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password? Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry. I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you. All of you.
Hello, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford, joined with me on this show, Jamie Walker. I think I said that right. I got the name right, Jamie. So if nothing else, stumbled over the intro, but I got the name right. Look, okay, time to debut the BCSN top 5. We've kind of figured out a way to drop this thing right about the beginning of October. We like to let the first 4 weeks of the season drop. And this is a ranking. This is not pollsters. We don't have pollsters. We're not doing polls. You know, when there's enough polls out there, we're part of a poll. Everyone's part of a poll. This is just empirical data. We just put the numbers, your performance, who you played, where you played, when you won, how you won. All of that stuff goes into this. We put it into a little formula, and then we drop out the top 5. So here's the first BCSN top 5 rankings for heading into week number 5. So this is through the first 4 weeks of the season. Let's start with the under D1. Coming in at number 5, Bowie State, the Bowie State Bulldogs, the defending under D1 champs from 2019, coming at number 5 with a record of 3-1. Number 4, Savannah State. Savannah State also with a record of 3-1. Number 3, Albany State with a record of 3-1, coming in based on their performance. So already a pair of SIACs, one CIAA. How about one more SIAC? Coming in at number 2, Lane College. Lane, another 3-1. I mean, look, so how many 3-1s we got there in the top 5? Pretty impressive, right? Lane coming in at number 3. And number 1, Langston. Langston University coming in at number 1. Jamie, what's your react to what our numbers say in the metrics that we have?
Well, I mean, I like it because, again, Langston, has beaten, soundly the people they faced. I also think those 3-1 records for everyone else, hey, they're telling. I think you can do a bunch of switching, but amongst the two, I think it's interesting. I think maybe a Fayetteville State may have something to say as well. But hey, right now, I like where we're at.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the most fluid poll to watch, because just think who's not in this top 5. Miles, like you said, Fayetteville State's not in it. Who else? Give me anybody else in there that
right now, Lane,
Kentucky State. Can talk about Kentucky State's not in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that in my mind are 3 teams that I like. That where will and it'll all shake itself out. These teams play each other, so it'll all come out in the wash. So it'll be interesting to see how the wins and losses shake out. All right. So that's the under D1. How about the D1 top 5 through 4 weeks of the season? Coming in at number 5, Southern University with a record of 2-2. Number 4, Alcorn State with also a record of 2-2. Number 3, Jackson State coming in at number 3 with a record of 3-1. Yeah. Number 2 is actually Prairie View A&M with a record of 3-1. And number 1, Alabama A&M. Your thoughts? I heard you say ooh, and when Jackson State comes in at number 3. That's what the numbers say. The numbers. That's all in the metrics and the data points, as my friends from another show like to say.
Well, I mean, if we're dealing with numbers, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. But that would be the only surprise, that flip-flopping between Jackson State and Prairie View would be the only one. In fact, I would beg to say Jackson State is number 1 in a lot of people's eyes as well, just because of how they played. But I think it's due to the fluidity of the poll, I think you're in a good spot right now, and I think it would also give some material for Jackson State to actually aspire to.
Sure, but it's funny you mentioned that about how they played. Let's be realistic. Look at how Prairie View has played in comparison to how Jackson State has played. I think it's 2 different. I mean, the talent level, yes, we get, but Jackson State, I mean, they blew out a 1-3 Tennessee State team, right? Yep. They lost to an FBS that they should have won. They lost by 7, or they won by 7 to a D2 school. Many people thought they should have covered that by a little bit more. And then against FAMU, they only won by 1 point. I mean, you flip that with what Prairie View has done. I don't know, the X factor somebody might say is your level of competition, but Prairie View has, I think, let's see, they've won all FCS schools, if I'm not mistaken. They haven't played a D2 school yet, have they? I'm kind of looking here at my grid. Let's see. So going back here at Prairie View's schedule, yeah, they won Texas Southern. They lost to Incarnate Word. They beat Houston Baptist. They beat Grambling. So they've had a completely an FCS schedule here. I mean, they have not played a D2, and I bet you anything that's what kind of tweaks the number a certain way. That now, had Jackson State beaten Louisiana Monroe, this is different. I firmly think, I bet you anything, Jackson State might even be number one.
I agree.
Because one, they'd be undefeated, but then they would have gotten some points for the win.
Well, I'll tell you what, even in the midst of this conversation, you've made me a believer. You've changed my mind as far as that, because you're exactly right. I think when you do compare the opponents and just the results, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, and anybody out there watching, look, trust me, I did not vote on this. Is not a vote. Again, this is a ranking based on wins, losses, opponents, what classification those opponents are in, where road wins, losses at home, that all that stuff is factored into these rankings. So it kind of, we try to use tangible results to quantify these rankings, instead of trying to leave it up to the good old eye test, which is, look, the eye test is what it is, right?
Yes, it is.
All right, let's talk about some teams that we're bullish and bear about, Jamie. Let's get a couple in here. Teams that we are bullish about. Who are you bullish about? Give me one, and we'll kind of go back and forth here. Who's one of the teams that you're bullish about through the first quarter of the season?
I am bullish about Lane College. I am bullish about those Dragons. I think Byron Brown, when he came in, he had a goal, coming from Grambling and just being around that program. And he talked about his philosophy on how he wanted to run his football team, how he wanted to run the football team in general. He wanted to be versatile offensively. He wanted, to play good defense, wanted to be sound, really in all facets. And right now, that's kind of paying dividends. They look good. And I remember some days they didn't look very good in the SIAC. And so just that minor improvement alone and just their ability to be able to score with people, I'm real bullish on them. Real bullish.
It's funny you brought them up first, because I too am bullish on Lane. That was one of the teams that I was spotlighting a week ago going into the Edward Waters game. So it's good to see that they went on the road and got a win and didn't disappoint me. Matter of fact, they've had four consecutive road games. That's how they started off their September. And they lost to this Arkansas Pine Bluff at the beginning of the season, 34-16. But then they went on the road to Clark, got a win at Fort Valley State. They had to come back to win. Then they went down to Jacksonville and got a win. So that's, you talk about the numbers and why is Lane number 2. Those road wins are real important, and just that says something. And so they're catching Texas College this upcoming week at home. Look, they should not struggle against Texas College, an NAIA school. They should not. But their schedule really comes after that, because they got a 3-week stretch where they play Kentucky State, Miles, and Tuskegee. And so if Lane is for real, that's where they've got to win 2 of those 3 games. They definitely need this Texas College game, but then they need to win 2 of the 3 between Kentucky State, Miles, and Tuskegee. They got to win those. And 2 of those 3 are on the road. They get Miles at home. I think Miles' game may be even homecoming. If I look at how their schedule plays out, that might be their homecoming on October 16th. So, Miles College, looking, that's a team I'm real bullish about as well. So give me, who's your number 2?
My number 2 would be Albany State, that I'm bullish about. Again, after calling their game, I can see them really being in the thick of things as far as the SIAC East is concerned, just because they're able to compete. And I think they have the type of game that will be competitive with anyone. And just the way that is kind of shaping out will kind of go with one of my, not so bullish teams in a little bit. But I think Albany State is definitely trending in the right direction. Real bullish on them.
My number 2 was Prairie View. And I think after I had them losing that contest in the State Fair Classic, I think according to my schedule matrix, I might have had them losing the week before that even as well to Houston Baptist. So Prairie View has really stepped up to me. I wasn't sure one, I did not know Jawan Pass was going to be their quarterback. I did not know Jawan Pass was going to be who he has turned into. And I think that gives me a lot of confidence in this team. And as I've watched them here against UAPB tonight, Jamie, I'm buying. I want to put more money into Prairie View A&M, to be honest with you. That's how excited I am about this team and their opportunity here, especially if they close this win out against UAPB. Don't have to score too many points, just in case some people had UAPB plus the 7.5. But I'm just saying, a win's a win, and it's looking real impressive right now. All right, how about some teams that we're not so high about? Some bearish teams that we're bearish on.
Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah.
I thought they would look a little better, but I think you're replacing a lot of skill position players and moving into a new conference. I guess it does take some time to get used to. I thought they would sneak up on some people, just being that Bethune was always one of those teams in the MEAC that you never saw them coming until the Florida Classic, but you never saw them coming, but they would be right there at the end of it. And so I thought they would, and if you compare the East, the East and West of the SWAC to each other, I thought they would possibly be a little further along, but right now it's just not looking good for them.
My number 1 team, Grambling. I'm bearish on Grambling. I was going to print the shirts up that say "In Fobs We Trust." I told you that at Media Day.
You did?
And I have been rewarded with 10 points in 3 games over recent. And really, you add the 16 points against Tennessee State, that's 26 points in 4 games, 2 shutouts. I hope the Noah Biden era begins with a bang. It will be tough, no doubt. As I look here, Grambling, let's see. Grambling. Yeah, this week, Alabama A&M. Jeez. Tough going here. These are some tough dates. I mean, you lose to Prairie View. Now you got Alabama A&M. And then you've got Alcorn State. I mean, this is a tough 3-game stretch here for the G-men. I'm not feeling too good or confident about them down the stretch. Who's your number 2, Jamie?
My number 2, I really had to go in between a couple of squads. Benedict. I think Benedict started out with a bang in just how they looked and was looking better. They had that great Thursday night contest I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was against
Edward Waters. Edward Waters, yeah.
Yeah, Edward Waters. Okay, and just looked the part. They're not there yet. They're just not there yet. And it's not that they haven't, Coach Barry, it's not that they look horrible. It's just that the way they started and right now they're kind of treading water. I'm not, I'm kind of bearish on them. I would beg to even say I'm not as bullish as I once was for them. And Dale State, I guess, would be my 2.5. Although, Coach Mills said really his run a phenomenal program. He's that's his alma mater, and he wants to do well with them. I thought they would be, and again, the MEAC is hard to kind of predict because they haven't played much of each other, so you really can't, you can't really judge what they'll be. But, again, some of those same things that have occurred with the Hornets are still occurring as far as, you see some talent there, you see some, what they can be in spots, but really hadn't put it together just yet. We'll see. That it may change my mind as the season goes on.
The tough part about Benedict, right? 2-0, got off to a 2-0 start, right? I called that game where they played Savannah State, Jamie, and I came away very impressed with them as that game wore on, right? Mm-hmm. They lose by 6 to Kentucky State. So these are one-score games that they're losing, right? But this is a brutal stretch because they come out of those 2 games. They got Fort Valley this week, Miles the following week, and then Albany State. I mean, my God. I mean, I thought Benedict was going to be the team that might cause somebody some troubles, and they still might be. Mm-hmm. But like you said, though, I mean, if I can see you, they weren't on my list, but I can see somebody being really bearish. Well, you are, and I think I could definitely see somebody else being there right along with you for Benedict. My number 2 team, South Carolina State. I know they had a bye week. I think they had a bye week. Looking it up. Yeah, they had a bye week. I'm still mad they lost to New Mexico State. To be honest. I mean, South Carolina State's schedule here, they got Bethune this week, FAMU next week, Morgan State the following week. I mean, they've got they're playing old MEAC schools heading into the MEAC schedule. I don't know that what was troubling for that New Mexico State is how efficient New Mexico State looked when they started that game. Mm-hmm. I was like, where did the Bulldogs defense go? That's what I thought was going to be, in common. It looked so good in week 1. And I know it came down to the last possession and the interception, but man, to go from that to getting beat by Clemson and then losing to New Mexico State, now you got a game where it's 2 winless teams, South Carolina State, Bethune-Cookman. Neither team we thought would be in that role of having to fight for their first win, but here they are, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to the part of the segment where we go with our top 3 games of the weekend. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, Jamie, and kind of alternate our top 3 games. What's your top game of the weekend?
Wow. And I think we already talked about it because the possibility of this happening, of a buster or somebody busting a bracket, I guess, for lack of a better term, could come up. The Fort Valley Benedict game. We kind of already mentioned it. I think, and that's my upset special. I don't know if you call it much of an upset, but I think Benedict comes out in that game. I'm looking forward to that just because of the way both squads are structured. So I like that game.
Okay, so that's your number 1. My number one is the Alabama State FAMU game.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is each of these teams have played a SWAC East opponent. Each of them have played a Division II team from the SIAC, and each of them have played an FBS school. Alabama State is right where they probably should be at 2-1. I think FAMU should be 3-0, or conservatively 2-1, but they're 1-2. So somebody, I mean, this win helps FAMU get and stay right in the mix. A loss at moving to 0-2. I know it's early and there's 6 more SWAC games, but you tell me the last team, Jamie, that went 0-2 in the SWAC division to start and then found their way back on top. It's such a hard hill to climb because there is going to be a lot of noise around them if they lose this ball game. So a lot of hype surrounding it. I would be shocked if there's not 20,000 plus at Bragg. Albany State's bringing down their band. FAMU's coming off a bye. This is going to be a good matchup, man. I told the boys on the other show 27-21 is how I saw it, but I'm really hoping this turns out to be a good defensive struggle. I want to see the Rattlers kind of get right, but Alabama State is not going to be an easy out. Not going to be easy out at all. Okay. All right, let's go to your number 2 game of the week.
The Battle of the Bay, Hampton versus Norfolk State. You know, you got Hampton in the poll, doing well, and you got this little lost and forgotten squad in Norfolk State, although people have kind of recognized, since Dawson Odom's arrived, that this team is improving. So I'm curious. That's a really good matchup, just of the strengths of both of those teams, and just the Hampton seems to be doing well right now. Not really in the thick of the Big South schedule, but they've been winning and looking better than the years past. And then this new Norfolk State Spartan upstart squad. I'm curious to see where this game will go. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Okay, my number 2, and I just want to make sure I see the settings. Okay, so this is a East versus West showdown in the SIAC. I'm talking Savannah State at Kentucky State. That's my number 2 game that I want to see. 2 coaches that I really loved talking to back in 2019 at the SIAC Media Day. They were the 2 coaches that I kept telling people, watch out for Charlie Jackson at Kentucky State. Watch out for Coach Quinn at Savannah State. Very likable guys, and I could sense with what they wanted to do. There may not, look, I know Kentucky State will go a game without a pass like they did this past week. Savannah State has the capability of going without a pass.
Absolutely.
I don't think they will, but Jamie, you talk about what would be what are the odds that we don't get a pass until, let's say, the second half? What if we don't get a pass at all? What are the odds? That's probably long odds, but it's not unlikely, right?
I would say better than 40%.
Yeah,
because it's possible, and we've seen both of these squads. So yeah, I think it's very possible.
Yeah, definitely. And so, can Savannah State in the East, Kentucky State in the West. This is a game that, who knows? It could be an SIAC championship preview. A lot has to happen for that, but put this one away. This might be one of those games that we're talking about from back in October, right?
Right.
Okay, number 3. What's your number 3 game?
Miles and Albany State. I don't know if you named it or not, but yeah, Miles and Albany State.
That's my number 3 as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they Miles is trending upward. After that challenging early schedule, I think now they're in the thick of the SIAC and getting in their groove, being able to run the football effectively. You also got Albany State again; they're doing their thing as well. On opposite sides of the conference, but they can see each other again easily. That I can see. So this is definitely a preview to the SIAC championship.
Yeah, this is a 7 Eastern, 6 Central kickoff. Albany State and Miles. Yeah, I definitely think this is as much as I want to try to hype up Savannah State and Kentucky State, there's probably more people who think Albany State and Miles will be the preview. Maybe we have to put that out on the Twitter poll. Which game is more likely a preview for the SIAC championship game? But this should be a good one, man. This will be. I didn't even look back at the history on when these two teams played previously, but this should be a good one, man. This should be a good old 12-round knockdown slugfest. There might be blood. Somebody's gonna get cut, and it just is a nasty battle. So
most definitely,
yeah, look forward to that. Albany State Miles. All right, so yeah, we both ended up with the same for our third game. Best chance of an upset. Who you just said earlier? Who was your best chance of an upset?
Benedict. Benedict against Fort Valley. Because I think they're evenly matched. Now I don't even know who's the favorite going in here, to be perfectly honest with you. But I know just because of their record and them trending down, Benedict is kind of not being looked upon as the sexiest going in, versus Fort Valley, who dropped the game, but dropped that game to Lane, but was right in the thick of things and thought of as being of the upper echelon in the conference. So I think Benedict, with the way they play defense and just a ball control system, I think they can spring the upset.
As bad as it is, I feel like a sucker for not being able to answer the question. I came up with the segment, but I can't. When I look at it though, nothing stands out at me though, Jamie. I'm like, I don't know. Is Tuskegee beating Clark at home really an upset?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, Livingstone versus Elizabeth City. Ooh, there's a. Somebody had to get a win bowl. Somebody had to get a win bowl.
I mean, you can look at Grambling and Alabama A&M. Let's say that Grambling, they get some good quarterback play. And, we've already kind of talked about A&M being susceptible for a team to come back. Tuskegee played them well in that second half. Hey, you never know.
No, I mean that's a good point, man. I'm looking for on the calendar here.
Yeah, it's in Grambling, so
yeah. It's at Grambling. It's an afternoon game. That's 3 Eastern, 2 Central on ESPN Plus. Woo. Yeah, I'm gonna roll with you on that one. I'm gonna borrow yours. I hate to sound lazy, but I'm gonna ride with you there. I don't see it happening, but it's it's a prognostication. I mean, look, who knows? It could happen. Who's on blowout alert?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm gonna go Lane. I'm gonna jump in front of you there. I'm gonna go Lane. Lane and Texas College. Texas College, watch out. You're on blowout alert. Lane can put up points. And Texas College has been giving up a lot of points lately.
Bowie State blowing out Johnson C. Smith.
Yeah, wow.
And it's their homecoming. So
yeah. 60 burger coming up.
So it could get ugly.
Yeah, 60 burger. All right, I think Prairie View kicked another field goal. So as we record this, coming up on the end of the third quarter, they have a 27-9 lead. I don't know. I don't see much life and excitement and rah-rah coming out UAPB right now. So I think this one could be elementary between whoever else and them. So, all right. Any final thoughts, Jamie? As we head into, are you out covering any games? Are you broadcasting any games this upcoming weekend?
I will be doing PA this weekend, actually. Morehouse and Edward Waters. So I will be at Lakewood Stadium in Atlanta doing PA. So you'll hear others will hear. If you're at the game, you'll hear my voice.
So tell me about being a PA. What is your style? Are you more of just the call the outcome? I mean, are you get that crowd hype guy? I mean, what's your style as a PA?
Wow. I'm a rah-rah guy. Yeah, most definitely. I think people like to have a good time. I was just the call out guy earlier in my career in PA, but as time has gone on, people want to be entertained as well as informed. So even from the PA mic, I try to do that.
Okay. All right. So that'll be a good game. Hopefully you have a good game on that. All right, Jamie, let the people know how they can find you and follow you.
All right. Well, I mean, you'll find me at Coachwork Sports on Twitter. You can kind of find me anywhere, man. You might see me on TV. You may, of course, hear my voice. I'll be, up and down, BCSN in a couple of different spots. So, hey, you'll find me in the A, as they say.
Well said. All right, Jamie, man. Appreciate you jumping in. Appreciate your time. Hope everyone watching, listening, enjoyed the show. Make sure you download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on your Google and Apple Play Store. Just go search myjbn/mybcsn. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at mybcsn1. That's the number 1. And then if you're listening to us in that audio stream of whatever you're listening to, whether it's Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, go like, subscribe, leave a review, all that good stuff. Share it with a friend, let somebody know. And then, hey, we're on the BCSN Pod Zone as well. So we've got our own podcast feed. We're also part of the BCSN Pod Zone. So go search BCSN Sports Wrap. So we're in a lot of places. And, hey, we appreciate you watching and hope you have a good week number 5. And we'll be back again, do it. Hopefully, I think Drew and I will be doing the live show on Sunday night, 6 Eastern, 5 Central, and then we'll come back next week. And if I can wrestle up Jamie, or who knows, might be another special guest decide to join us next week. We'll do that as well. So, Jamie, again, man, can't thank you enough. Appreciate you for your time. All right.
Appreciate you having me as always.
All right. So for Jamie Walker, I'm Brian Fulford. You've been watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Peace and love. Be safe out there and enjoy the football this upcoming weekend.
But EMR, please stay hard.